Monday Night Football. The Detroit Lions are on the road to take on the San Francisco 49ers. My best bets are on the way. If you are new, my name's Austin from Calling No Shot. Still under the weather, but that has not affected our performance. If anything, it's made us even better. Here's how we did on Sunday. Pretty good day. We had Mike Evans. We had him for 6 receptions for 1 unit. Sprinkled on the 7 and 8. He came through. Then we also had Bijan's over in rush yards. He came through pretty early. And then, of course, our only loser was Jordan Love's over in pass yards. Had like 45 at halftime. Really didn't get going until late. Ended with 185. But hey, I will happily take a 2-in-1 day. Mike Evans was a little bit of a bigger play. We'll certainly take that. But on a really good roll the last few days in the NFL. I'll talk about this game, though, because we have the San Francisco 49ers playing host to the Detroit Lions. Yesterday, based on the Vikings winning, this game doesn't really mean a whole lot to the Detroit Lions. Sure, we've seen Dan Campbell come out and say, hey, we're still playing our guys. He kind of did that last year or whatever. I believe that was last year. Sam Laporta got injured in one of those games. It's a little bit tough, but I'll talk about my favorite picks and kind of how I'm navigating this game. I do want to know at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about Underdog Fantasy. Right now, they have a free square right now for Brock Purdy to get you 1 yard. Pretty good offer out there right now. If you use my code COS or the link in the description, they'll match your first deposit up to $1,000 and give you that Brock Purdy free square. I'll be talking about a bunch of other player props, how I would use that free square at the end of the video. But again, appreciate you guys as always for tuning in. We're going to dive into my favorite pick. I'm going to waste no more of your time. I meant to put a graphic for you, but I completely forgot to do that before I clicked record. So instead, let's just dive into my favorite pick of the day, and that is going to be a guy by the name of Jauan Jennings. I really like his over in receiving yards, which is going to be 63.5 on right here, but I actually got this at 62.5 on FanDuel, which I think is probably the line if you're looking at it right now. Let's see if it changed after I posted. Nope, Jauan Jennings, 62.5 receiving yards, a 1-unit play. It's my only play of the day, Jauan Jennings over. Now, why am I on Jauan Jennings? Now, here's a list of all the games he's played when he's played with 70% of snaps and with Brock Purdy active. So pretty much him just playing with Brock Purdy. And obviously, he's been in and out of the lineup this year because of injuries and stuff like that. But if you look at recently, he hasn't just been playing 70% of snaps. We're talking in these games down here, 94%. So he's in there a lot. But you look at these games, he's over in 4 of 7. Under in 3 of his last 4, though. This game against Buffalo was that snowy game. Not much you can do there. I was Brock Purdy really injured in that one with his shoulder. This game against the Rams was a game where we saw the Rams not really have that was a game that was super rainy. And then the game against the Miami Dolphins, 51 yards. It just didn't come through. In that game, we saw Deebo Samuel and George Kittle combined for 200-plus receiving yards. I am here to report if George Kittle and Deebo combined for over 200 yards, probably not going to be enough yards to go around to Mr. Jauan Jennings. But I really like this matchup for him to get going, and I really think this is a great spot. If you look at the Lions so far this season, they've been pretty bad. Most receiving yards allowed to wide receivers, second most receptions. So they've been pretty porous. If you look at as of late, let's just say since like week 10, hasn't really gotten any better. I mean, their rush defense has been hit or miss this year, but I mean, sure, I guess the receptions wise, they're down here, but still yards wise, they're still pretty high up here. I mean, still in the top 10, matchup, give or take. We look at wide receivers with 4 or more receptions against them this year. Just recently, Keenan just had 141, DJ Moore 68, Roma Dunze went over. I mean, Christian Watson. All these guys are crushing this line against the Detroit Lions, and I think that you're going to see Jauan Jennings be no different and absolutely crush this line. We backed him last week, and he did not come through, but I'm not too worried about that. I think this is a great spot to back Jauan Jennings. I really think he's in for a great matchup. I think the Lions maybe might be focused on slowing down a guy like maybe Deebo Samuel a little bit more, who's been really inconsistent, and they'll also be focused heavily on George Kittle. I meant to bring this up. You look at the Lions so far this season, they have been elite against the tight end position. I mean, we're looking at their tight end numbers, fewest receptions and the fewest yards allowed to tight ends. So again, one of the best defenses against tight ends. Hopefully that limits George Kittle's production, and instead we see Brock Purdy having to look other ways, and I really think he's going to be looking the way of Jauan Jennings. If you're looking at how running backs have done against them this season, not very good as well, and also not a lot of receiving yards either, just 32, which is about middle of the pack too. So again, I really like Jauan Jennings in this matchup. I really like his over in yards. I took it at 62.5. You could probably take it up to about 66, 67.5. I think he's in for a big day. He's going to get back our money that he lost us last week against the Dolphins. We're running it back, system play. Jauan Jennings having a big day. Now I'm going to talk about my underdog entry of the week. Here's what I got. Oop, nope, wrong graphic. A little bit cooked doing these videos all in one take. I can't really edit. You understand. Here's my underdog entry. Like I said, a reminder, use code COS or the link down below in the description, and they will match your first deposit up to $1,000 and give you that Brock Purdy free square. One thing I love about Underdog is they give you a bunch of alternate lines. That's what I've been using here. We have Jauan Jennings at 50 plus yards. I think he gets that. Jake Moody, I took him from 6.5 kicking points down to 5.5. I really like his kicking prop. Lions have given up a fair share of yards, but they have been pretty good in the red zone. Be great for us. If they want to give up some touchdowns, we should get a kicking point there. Sam Laporta, fading him, taking his lower 59.5 receiving yards. He's just been really inconsistent this year in a bad spot against the Buccaneers. And the final one, George Kittle, lower than 79.5 receiving yards. I know he's been pretty good recently, but 80 yards for tight end ain't easy, especially against the worst matchup on paper. Now, sure, they're down some guys, but still, their system has been taking away tight ends. I know George Kittle's a beast. Don't love fading him. That's why I didn't fade his regular line, but I like him in this one. It's $25 to pay out about $88. I think it's not too shabby. I'll take a stab there. Now let's talk about this game. Now, I'll be honest, if this game meant a lot to the Lions, I would have another pick, and that would be Jahmyr Gibbs over 122.5 rushing plus receiving yards. The issue is this game doesn't mean anything to the Lions. I'm sure if they lose this game and then they tie next week, sure, they would lose the 1 seed, but the odds of tying aren't really too likely. And ultimately, next week's game against the Vikings will determine if they get the 1 seed and the NFC North. Sure, I know Dan Campbell is a psychopath. We all know it. And I don't doubt that he's going to play his guys the whole game, but I'd kind of feel like an idiot if I played a Jahmyr Gibbs over and next thing you know, he comes out after the first half and they just don't bring him out. Or maybe they reduce his workload. I'd be like, Austin, you knew that going into the game. That didn't mean anything. You just trusted the coach talking out of his ass. I don't know. I love Dan Campbell. I just feel like he was already burned doing this sort of strategy a year ago. I don't know if he needs to do it again. And he can. I honestly can. I don't really care. But I just don't want to. I would feel like an idiot if I took an over for a Lion and it ended up biting me because I'm like, just tough. But in terms of the spread on this game, if you're looking at the spread, you're seeing the Lions as 3.5-point favorites. I kind of like the under in this game. I really think both defenses are better than the number suggests. 50.5 is a lot of points. I'd probably maybe towards the first half under. If anything, I don't really like taking full game unders. Full game unders in the NFL feel like you're just cooked from the jump. You never can get out of there sweat free. Whereas the first half under can be sweat free, and then you can watch the second half and not have to worry about it. So I do like a first half under here. Not a lot of confidence here. There's just so much uncertainty for the Lions in terms of how hard we're going to go. I know Dan Campbell, psychopath. We know that. But again, I just someone in that building's got to have a brain and be like, hey, we don't need to go pedal to the metal. But hey, that's how they've been so successful. So maybe they just continue rolling over and they don't want to take a foot off the gas. Maybe lose some momentum going into next week's game against the Vikings. So either way, should be a really good game. My only pick, Jauan Jennings over in receiving yards. Apologies for not having a graphic or a little thing going down on the bottom of the screen. Pretty easy. I only have one pick, Jauan Jennings over in receiving yards. Let's go 1-0. Let's end week 17 strong, going to week 18, which is always a weird week. We'll still try to find some value for you all. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Apologies for sounding like a disaster. Better than how I sounded on that Saturday video, though. I will note, if you want to check out my NBA best bets, we've been red hot over there. Hopefully you know that. If not, now you know. That video is linked right here. Have a great day. I might do a long shot parlay, and if I do, I'll link that article link down below in the pinned comment. Have a great day. Good luck on your picks. And I'll see you guys back again for some other videos in the future. See you then. Peace.